Hey everybody, it's Dan here. Before we get this episode started, we just wanted to just say a couple words. So about this episode's topic, it's probably not a big deal, but I felt weird not addressing a very popular YouTube channel. The Exposition released an episode earlier this Monday going over game difficulty, especially in regards to Dark Souls. Um, and I know that video has been getting a lot of weird heat. More specifically, James Stephanie Sterling has been getting a lot of heat for the opinion about Dark Souls should, or they would think it makes sense for it to have an easy mode added into it. We don't really talk about that subject matter here on this episode, but we did just want to address that nothing that we're saying is in any way a response to or even like meant to be a jab at them. I also address it because in the episode, very innocuously, I think we make like a reference or two to them. We reference them, just like a casual sort of joke, just because we were fans of the show. We like the show. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to your guys' attention that this is not in any way meant to be an attack on them. I don't think you guys would consider this an attack on them, but just we want it would feel weird. The timing feels weird, and I didn't even realize because we record these usually on a Monday night. I hadn't looked at my YouTube subscriptions all that Monday, and I assumed that when we planned this episode earlier in that week, Joe hadn't checked either. So we didn't know that this episode that they were going to do this week of the Gymquisition was going to be about the difficulty. It's just kind of coincidence. Anyway, enjoy, guys. We hope you enjoy the episode. Have fun.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Exposition table. I'm your first host, Joe,
And I'm your second host, Dan.
and this time our episode is about two things, but more kindly just one thing: difficulty modes and player choice. You ever playing a game and you think to yourself, why can't I change the difficulty? Or I really appreciate all these difficulty options. I'm glad that the developers trust me to choose my own experience. Or do you think a developer is getting a little too complacent with making their games really easy and forcing you to make the game hard for them?
And
Or
if this topic is too difficult for you and you don't like to hear it and don't like to have to deal with complex emotional feelings about game development, go watch one of our other episodes, which is just about a basic one-off topic, like the Sonic tier list or Pokemon or something like that.
yeah,
You have the choice to decide how you listen to our podcast. You wish other
yeah,
developers would actually give you that much level of autonomy.
yep,
Cut, customize your listening experience. But yeah, so I would assume based on this topic, since you're the one who brought it up, you have some examples that you'd like to bring to attention. And I think I know what franchises you're going to hit on. So, you know, get on with it. Talk about the big one you want to talk with. I know eventually we're going to talk about Pokemon. I know
yeah,
that's coming up. But
yeah.
let's kind of get into the impetus of
The kind of
what
poster
is,
boy for the whole discussion of difficulty modes. I guess
and
aside
I
from
assume much
Pokemon,
what just yeah, what I assume also inspired you to talk about this particular topic based on your penchant for this franchise and style of gameplay.
yeah, like I've been on the field. I've been in the Dark Souls discussions for a while now. So
Yeah, Dark Souls is really the epitome of giving you a lot of choice, but also asking a lot of the player at the same time.
yeah, like there's a lot of ways a developer can like give you options and difficulty. Some are more diegetic, like yeah, Dark Souls. There's a lot of mechanics that can help you out. There's not necessarily an easy mode. Or you can just do it the old-fashioned way and just have like an easy, normal, hard, maybe like a fourth one just to spice things up. Or you can do what a lot of modern RPGs do and have a whole bunch of settings that you can toggle.
Yeah, too many settings for me to finagle with, and so many things to toggle. Um, for me, I usually leave a lot of my stuff like that on the default. I appreciate the accessibility options for making games, more accessible for people who either, aren't as familiar with games or people who, you know, might have different sort of experiences with sort of these genres.
Yeah,
A lot of them now give you the options to play the game focused on the story and minimize the difficulty of the combat, or
yeah.
tailor the gameplay to sort of specialize in particular styles. I know The Last of Us Part 2 was a big one with that. The
Um,
more recent Tomb Raiders, basically a lot of games to count. Don't worry, I'm going to get back to Dark Souls, but kind of
yeah.
hitting on a point of like,
It's
I don't
also
want to say over. I don't want to say over uh, accessibility, but like more accessibility than I'm gonna finagle with. I'm just gonna
yeah,
leave the game as is. But I think it's never a bad thing to have this
yeah,
much option. It's never a bad thing to have too many accessibility options.
yeah.
It's never a bad thing to have too many accessibility options.
So you're saying that we should remove set mode?
Go back to Dark Souls. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet.
Yeah, like Dark Souls is intended to be, if not necessarily a hard experience, a challenging experience. They don't really give you an option to like make the game like mechanically easy, but they give you a lot of assistance, like
I
things like
mean,
summoning. A lot of games have like covenants that take some of the edge off.
Giving you the option to pick your skills and your like class at the beginning is in some way sort of a difficulty,
Yeah,
maybe not mode, but is at least somewhat of a difficulty adjuster. If you're, maybe not for the first time player, but for people who played the game for a while and kind of
yeah,
know how different things work, there are easier and more difficult classes. There's certain abilities you can pick. I know, like the one that gives you like the master lock
yeah,
key, the locksmith ability, like stuff like that, allows you to sort of customize your experience and also kind of decide how you're going to go about the game.
yeah.
Um,
Ironically, it goes the Pokemon route of having like the starters be your difficulty. Like your start.
oh, yeah. I was kind of thinking about Pokemon starters, but I feel like,
Uh,
honestly, I feel like for Dark Souls, it's both. And when I say Dark Souls, I'm talking about like the whole Souls franchise, but I've
yeah,
only mostly played Dark Souls 1, a smidge of Demon Souls, and a smidge of Bloodborne, so that's really my context. Joe's the Souls expert.
yeah,
But having that, it almost feels like when you pick your class, you're picking your Pokemon starter, and yet
yeah,
it feels both more important and less important at the same time. More important because it's like this is something that's going to tangibly affect how the game plays, versus Pokemon where it just changes some numbers and stats. Certainly your starter Pokemon's important, but
but like
at
in
the
the
end of
end,
the
it
day, you could
is just
also just,
one Pokemon.
and you could just put it in your box after you get enough Pokemon eventually, especially with the newer games being more open-ended. Um,
Yeah,
Whereas with like the skill you gain is going to affect for a while because you might not be able to get those other skills the rest of the game
yeah,
at all,
or else
or if not for a while.
yeah, you have to like really dig for a lot of the starting stuff of other classes.
Yeah,
But either way, it's like it's
it's also a passive thing that doesn't affect how the game mechanically controls, but
yeah,
it does affect how you can interact in the environment. It'd be like if Pokemon gave you one HM to start your game off with. Like, you get to start with Surf, or you get to start with Defog.
oh boy, I want to start with cut. Yeah,
Hey man, to be fair, early game
that's not a bad move early game.
that would actually be really helpful. No, not even that. Like for overworld exploration, like
Yeah,
if you could start a Pokemon game and have one HM, and it would affect how you could control, but you're not allowed to pick Surf because obviously everyone's gonna pick Surf.
yeah, for several reasons.
Yeah. But yeah. Uh, but no, yeah, Dark Souls has been a really big proponent of giving you these accessibility options. So it's really no surprise that they would eventually start adding some of these, that From would start adding some of these to make the game a little bit easier. They've
Yeah,
been since the beginning giving you the options of choice,
yeah,
giving you, the player, all the choice in the world of how you want to play your game. Every every morsel of Dark Souls is customizable. You can play online or offline. You can be armored or not armored. You can be dead or alive. And that has different kinds of customization that cost several $100s dead or alive. So we're not talking about that. You know, you
Yeah,
can. There's basically every element. You can go different areas. You could explore different things. You can not fix your weapons. You know, and for a lot of games, that much level of freedom would off put me. But it manages to put so much customization into a fairly linear. Again, I'm still mostly talking about the
Dark Souls
earlier
1.
games. Yeah, but I know that the later games become a little more open ended. But obviously,
Yeah,
I'm not talking about Elden Ring. Elden Ring's a completely different beast, and I'm sure you can talk a lot more about Elden Ring and how that differs. But I know all the way up to at least like Sekiro, most of the games are fairly linear.
yeah,
You know, fairly. With
yeah,
some open endedness. They're pretty like a Zelda game's linear,
pretty much.
where it's like it's linear in that way, where like you know where you're going, you know what you have to accomplish, but there are multiple ways to get there. Multiple. You don't have to go immediately in that sort of a sense. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so, and it is kind of interesting because when I'm thinking about Zelda, it's like, it did take us a very long time to get customization in
Yeah.
Zelda. I feel like Zelda really doesn't do a whole lot. There really isn't a whole lot you can customize in Zelda besides your weapons. Like, everything else is more or less just upgrades, passive upgrades,
Yeah.
like temporary increases, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't want to sound like, for some games, more customization is better. For other games,
It's
they're
because they're
structured.
like mechanically different. Like Zelda, due to the dungeon design, like they kind of have to expect you to have a very specific set of things you can do.
No, I mean like Breath of the Wild.
Oh, well, yeah,
Because I was thinking at first about like, Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, where they're incredibly non customizable as they're designed to sort of take you through particular hallmarks of the game and hit certain checkpoints. But Breath of the Wild really doesn't have a whole lot of customization. There's costumes with some stats, there's weapons with some stats, but uh, otherwise I don't think it's super super in depth.
no, not really.
Um, but Breath of the Wild did give you the option to kind of go and do whatever you want, kind of explore around.
Yeah,
So
like
maybe the customization there is more about how you get there and
yeah, you
not what they
customize
give
your
you.
journey, not your character.
Yeah, which was still a huge departure for the traditional rest of the franchise.
Yeah,
Which was very much, yeah, you're gonna go here, you're gonna get this thing. You can maybe buy the stupid expensive sword. That's your customization.
yeah. Like I guess since we've kind of been talking about it, customization difficulty modes, it's like very tied in with linearity
Yeah,
conceptually.
yeah. A lot of games, it's like that's kind of why it's such a broad topic to sort of go. And I'm kind of just thinking of different examples off the top of my head. So feel free to stop me at any point if I go too far down a rabbit hole. Because now I'm thinking of like, for example, the kind of easy modes you would see in older games or even newer games where they just slap more platforms on or they put more enemies in the environment.
Yeah.
Like Mega Man 2 easy mode, which was technically Mega Man 2 normal in Japan, and normal was actually hard, those fucking bastards. Those goddamn bastards. Oh, I beat Mega Man 2 on normal. Oh yeah, that's the hard mode.
Yeah.
They would just add or remove platforms, add or remove enemies,
Yeah.
very hollow difficulty change. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see that a lot of games are giving more genuine elements of difficulty and not just very hollow, kind of slapped together. It's now easy. Here, it's now hard. We
Yeah.
put bumpers on the side of your bowling lane.
Like it's a result of a few things. A, the technology is just there to make more granular changes more effectively, and also due to the experience cumulatively gained by game designers and more knowledge, like people kind of know the different, not just hard and easy, but like how difficulty works and how to really judge it better.
Yeah, a lot of people who've been growing up gaming knowing, yeah, this would have been a good option to have when I was a kid. This would have been something I actually would have
Yeah.
appreciated. This is something that would have made the game more fun.
There's
You
more to
know,
difficulty than, oh, enemies have more HP, but also like, what if we restricted what items you could use and when you could use them?
yeah, like having the option to sort of just do a lot with your game. Hell, even just things like customization with controls. I know this is more about game difficulty and more about player autonomy
Yeah.
in terms of like how the game's controlled, but I really do think that like or like how the journey's experienced, but I really do think player like input is like a major element that's been heavily refined over the years. Like hell, there used to be a time where you couldn't control which direction your camera moved. You
Yeah.
used to just have to deal with the camera, and if you were used to like one way and then the other game had inverted, you were like, yeah, fuck, this sucks. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So even just simple shit like that, like allowing you to invert your camera, invert, which really actually does go a long way. Because if you're so used to a particular style, trying to go back, it's like, Jesus Christ, how do we survive? How did we survive back then?
Yeah, just having more options to suit a player's need. Like that's kind of what a difficulty setting's supposed to do. Even in a basic day when like, a game like Sonic 3 or Doki Doki Panic would have a few like playable characters you could do and they could approach different challenges easier or harder. Like, okay, like Tails can fly so he can navigate platforming segments easier than Sonic.
But Joe, wouldn't it be better if the game just told you that this mode was easier? Like, let's say you go into the game, let's say you're playing as girls, and they decide the girls need to have a tutorial at the start. And so the game tells you this is the mode for beginners because you play as the girl.
Oh, is it shit on Sonic Heroes time again? I'm always up for that.
And then you can play as the bad guys to play as the hard difficulty.
What's funny about the Sonic Heroes quote unquote difficulty settings is that there's a tutorial in the menu before you even get to the main game.
Yeah. But they
Uh,
make you play the tutorial in their mode just so you can have the easiest time. And why would you put the easy mode as the third one? I understand, the game's Sonic Heroes, but like if you're gonna you need to structure your menu in a way like that. They were afraid to put Team Rose as the first option, even though they knew people would just slide over one and pick Team Sonic anyway. But like if they put Team Rose on the left, you know how many people would have clicked that little Omo Chow button and be like, "Oh, this is the easy mode." Then they would have went to Team Sonic. This is the normal mode. Then Team Dark. This is the hard mode. And then Team Chaotix. This is the you're on drugs and don't know what you're doing mode.
or you could do it like other easy, normal, hard things where you start at
You could just
normal,
write it. Yeah.
you start
You
in
could
the
just
middle
write
as
words.
Team Sonic, and then you go left or right, like easy, hard. But like no, you put Sonic all the way on the left and easy mode two to the right.
That's what I'm saying. Is like if they should have put Rose as like the first option on the left. Or, even if you have Sonic as the one you're selected as, they should have had Rose to the left.
Yeah,
Communicate, this is easier. Not
yeah,
whatever the hell they do, because if you go by the menu, it looks like Team Dark is easier than Team Rose. They
yeah,
just can't handle Big the Cat. And to be fair, Cheese the Chow can rip through motherfuckers if you played Sonic Advance too.
yeah. Which is another way you do difficulty modes that you just make one character inherently like easier to use.
Yeah. That's an example where, the idea was there, but it's so cheap in Sonic Heroes.
And also because you
Uh,
have to do them all anyway.
Even disregarding that, um, Sonic is the normal mode, but it's just they just add more level and add maybe a few more enemies with a little more
Yeah.
health. Team Rose is just shorter levels.
Yeah.
And then I keep joking about Team Chaotix, but they really just were like, yeah, whatever. We don't have any other way to handle this, so we're just gonna put stupid gimmick challenges in each level.
Remember mission mode in the Sonic Adventure games? Well, here's a whole here's a whole campaign that you have to do that all the time.
Yeah. But hey, if you want to hear us wax more about Sonic, we got a whole tier list on that one. You can hear
Yeah.
all our thoughts about those games. But no, I did think, at least in this context, I was, since you mentioned Sonic 3, which is an example of passive difficulty done the right way, better mention it handled the wrong way with Heroes.
Yeah.
So,
Leave it to the Sonic team to unlearn their lessons.
how to fuck up difficulty levels in a linear platformer with no customization.
Yeah. At least other games that generally tend to mess up difficulty options at least have like a better excuse. Like, what's this?
Like, you literally, I can't believe I'm saying your game would have been a better product if you just moved your menu a little. You literally would have had a better product if you just rearranged your menu so that the consumer was more cognizantly aware. Because it's not the problem when you're playing the game the first time. Sonic Heroes isn't that hard. The problem is when you're playing the third time, but you're playing the easy mode after you've already played normal and hard mode.
Yeah.
Unless you choose every time you're going to play Sonic Heroes to play the Team Rose campaign, which no one's going to do that. It's the worst story. No one's gonna do that. Again, assuming you're a boy in the early to mid 2000s who was picking up Sonic Heroes, which you would be the primary demographic for, you know,
Yeah.
just kind of boys of that era, probably you're not gonna pick the girls. Majority of the time. You're gonna pick Sonic in the game called Sonic Heroes. You're not gonna pick Amy Rose, the girl who wants to murder Sonic.
Yeah.
Pick the
Like,
cat.
alright, peel this back and just have them as difficulty settings. Who orders it? Normal, hard, easy, bad difficulty.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, so any other interesting difficulty modes in your opinion?
Oh, I mean, there's plenty of them. Oh, you mean like actual like difficulty modes? Like how the mode is controlled?
Yeah. Well, I mean, pretty much any other like approaches to difficulty. I guess I can talk about a game I really like. I'll talk about my favorite game. Is that like Kingdom Hearts One gives you quite a few, or at least Final Mix, which is the version you're going to be playing nowadays, has a lot of difficulty modes. It just kind of hits you pretty early. You can modulate your experience a lot. You have beginner, normal, proud, and then you could kind of choose your starting kit, like what your character is going to be good and bad at, and you can even manipulate your experience curve. So not only can you affect the base difficulty of the game, you can also just kind of adjust how your character is going to progress a bit. So it's kind of like
It's
a
not a it's not a huge, change, but it's enough to kind of make each run feel unique and make your game feel like you have control of how your game's going to play, especially with abilities. The
yeah,
abilities you can equip can really make the game easier or harder for yourself. Um, which I think once you kind of conclude this thought, I think is going to be a good way of talking about uh, self-imposed difficulty and
yeah,
player, challenges, which will lead us into the big boy topic.
yeah. Like pretty much just like Kingdom Hearts One has a pretty like defined core experience that you can just modulate in a lot of ways because your partner character's AI can be adjusted. Your abilities, heck, in the final mix release, the HD release, you can even have the option to just not gain experience at all.
Yep. If you want to make your game harder, you can go ahead and do that because the game lets you choose what you're gonna do. On top of actually just having difficulty settings anyway.
Yeah. And it's an engaging experience either way. It's not like you have to just collect these objects to make your game hard at all, and if not, it's super easy. It's yeah. You just have a solid all around experience that you can then modulate.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts has like a really solid difficulty, and I think, well, I haven't played the original PS2 release in a while. I think I really enjoyed my experience with Kingdom Hearts Final Mix when I was playing that. Just for the amount of customization and options and what you could really do. Um,
Yeah.
I almost finished Proud Mode, but then I switched consoles, and then I never got the platinum for that. But I
Yeah.
definitely would have. I played through that game like 4 times. I didn't really do a lot of customizing. I know you like to do a lot of customizing with Kingdom Hearts when you play it, how you sort of modify. You were
Yeah.
the only person I've ever heard who tries to do a physical Donald build.
Yeah, and it works. Set Donald's magic use rate down and have him use more physical attacks and support spells. Give
With
him the
this smashing
hammers.
board. With this smashing hammer.
Yeah. And give him the hammers that the game allows you to use. So it's like you can basically choose if Donald's a mage or a cleric.
Yeah. It's not much of a choice, but something. You can do it. You know.
Yeah.
You're not prohibited from not doing it, even if it's weird and kind of odd and you shouldn't really do it. You can do it.
Yeah, you can do it.
Which is really a step removed from self-imposed challenges.
Yep.
Pokemon.
Alright, yeah, I think it's time to talk about Pokemon. Um
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. Before I get anything out of the way, what I ripped into Sonic Heroes, a game I have very mixed feelings on and
Yeah.
used to dislike, but really am starting to warm up on. But I'm going to talk about a game I personally love to bits. Who what crack was someone smoking when they decided to make black and white have easy and hard difficulty modes you had to unlock by beating the game and transferring data between cartridges? You had to finish the fucking game to get easy mode.
Has
What goddamn crack was it someone smoking?
yeah, I do have to wonder. Has anyone ever done that? Like has anyone
Man,
ever
I sure enjoyed Pokemon White. I wish I could make this easier by 5 levels per major trainer.
yeah, has anyone ever organically used these settings and not
I
been
think
using it on
I,
themselves just to give them a hard mode?
I mean, I think that's the point, is like to get the hard mode. But like, you also need to realize, Joe, is that only Pokemon Black can get hard mode.
Yeah,
Pokemon White can only get easy mode.
like what were they thinking? No, seriously,
I might be thinking of White 2 and Black 2 as well. It's been a minute. But I know that one of those games. But the point still stands. What the fuck?
yeah, what was that? And then they never did it again.
No, they were like, no, people don't like this. We're just gonna make the game easier. No, I'm sure that's not the reason, but it sure does feel like that's the reason. Introduce a terrible feature, say that it failed, say that it was used not at all, so you can justify your next decision for the next major release. God, was that it? Conspiracy theory time. Did they put that feature in the game so it can bomb, so that people can then accept the next generation's major overhaul to experience and difficulty? Was that difficulty mode thing set out to fail?
What was Masuda cooking?
Oh, we're not gonna find that out until Sword and Shield,
The answer was curry.
and then sandwiches. He cooked a sandwich.
Yeah. So yeah, like okay. Long ago, the experience share was an item you got halfway through the game, so you could split experience between one Pokemon and another.
Yeah,
It used to,
unless it was the first gen, in which case it split it between all Pokemon. And you had to watch each Pokemon get experience, so it would take what was originally like a 15-second screen and made it a 2-minute screen. This is relevant, though. I'm not just bringing you up to be pedantic.
But
Continue.
but instead, what later games have decided to do was create an experience share that didn't split your experience, but you gained the same experience, and then it generated more experience for the rest of your party.
Yeah, see, in the first game, it would split the experience across you. The first Pokemon would get the most, and then everyone else would get like split 5 ways between what was
Yeah.
remaining. Um, but here it splits the experience 50%. Which when you have two Pokemon, it's not a big deal. When you have six Pokemon, it splits it 5 ways. It generates 300% experience across those six Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's your extra experience. You were just gaining more experience.
And it just so happened to be the
Pokemon
same generation, X and Y, where enemy trainers just had neutered teams.
had a whopping two Pokemon.
And
Three. Maybe if you were lucky, you found a guy with three Pokemon.
introducing a battle gimmick, which basically meant for 90% of the game, the player effectively had a gun and the enemy didn't. Mega Evolution, that's the gun.
I walked in with to a fight with a what's the bug? What's the bug's name in Gen 6?
The, the bug gym
What's him?
leader.
No, the bug. The game's bug. Is it Sawaddle? No, Sawaddle is Gen 5, right?
Spupa.
Spewpa. You brought a Spewpa, and I brought my Mega Charizard. Why?
And you'll ask yourself, why?
I have a Mega. You come to this battle with a Spewpa. I come to this battle with a Mega Stone and a fully evolved Charizard. We are not the same.
And oh, that reminds me of Sun and Moon, where like I forget the scientist's name. It was like one of the major Aether Foundation scientists. Like he was guarding the gate in like the last area or one of the last areas. He had one level 38 Hypno. Like what does that do?
Yeah, man, budget cuts are real across the whole Alola region. Maybe someone should have really been looking into the economy.
Yeah. Can't have shit in Aether Foundation.
What's going on? The meme of what's going on in this town, but you just see what's uh the one that looks like Lily, the Ultra Beast. The first one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you just see that one coming out, or any of the Ultra Beasts. Can't have shit in a Alola, or can't do anything in Alola. Like the memes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
no, I mean, I think that was even worse, were the Z moves. Because the problem with these, alright, to actually bring this back on topic and not just a roasting modern Pokemon thing, is that on top of the XP share now being completely different, it was still optional, but it became a bit different. You couldn't, you had to like equip it on and off, and it affected everyone. It wasn't implemented very well, but at the very least, it was an optional feature. You could turn it on and off, even though you got it like after the first gym or something, like
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
And in comes Sword and Shield.
Yeah, in comes Sword and Shield, where it is not optional, and the game is still not really balanced for it, even though it's been like 3 gens by this
Oh
point.
yeah,
They
and then
should have
you
had it
also
balanced.
in oh if one of your Pokemon's behind, you can also just farm candies and just trivialize the game if you grind for like an hour.
Yeah, that's a mechanic they took from Pokemon Let's Go, which, you know, honestly, Let's Go has been very weird for me because I've been starting to like, I don't want to say justify it, but I feel like I'm starting to get more of its design philosophies and kind of think for what it is, it's fine. Because of being a remake of Gen 1, I think a lot of the weird things it adds. Like, it's also trying to use Pokemon Go mechanics and Pokemon Go, like, stats and stuff like that. It's a very weird game. But in that context, I think the candy thing isn't that bad of an idea.
Yeah.
Like having candies and all that involved.
Biggest problem is
It's
that you didn't really regulate their use cases enough in the later games.
yeah, especially with how easy it is to get experience. Like Gen 1, it does help to have a crutch or two because of those, despite the fact that I'm talking about a game released in 2000, like 17 or 18. I'm talking about them like they're games from the 90s. You know, it does help to have some of those uh, amenities.
That and XP candies make more sense when you can't just do wild battles willy nilly.
And you can't just do trainer battles willy nilly.
Yeah.
You can't just go and find them. There's no verse seekers or whatever. I don't think there's a verse seeker in a Let's Go, or if it is, it's not till much later. Uh, the game's structured around a difficulty, admittedly of antiquated difficulty, so it helps have those options in there. Uh, and again, those are still optional. I think the only thing that's not optional was the XP spread.
Yeah.
But again, I think in that case they were trying to patch up flaws the original game had. Um, but in this context, uh, it just doesn't work with the newer games. The newer games have made the fact that you can't turn them off is a big red flag. The fact that the games are getting easier, easier for the main game, the main battles,
Yeah.
like the story battles, like the gym leaders. Those I do feel like they're actually getting, despite the fact that there's so few Pokemon on their teams, they have been getting creative with some of those battles.
Yeah.
They have been creating. I feel like, despite what I said earlier, I feel like Sun and Moon actually like did a good job sort of building out the difficulty with like the totem battles and all that. Even though they did just give you a kill move button with the Z moves, and that was stupid. But I do feel like actually constructing the difficulty. It feels like they were cooking something good there, and then it got spoiled by the time I got the Sword and Shield.
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of like the danger of adding convenience to a game.
Yeah,
Is it
it feels like there's so many gimmicks, and it feels like there's so many ways to make your game easier. Like
like the
it's
friendship
just,
mechanics where your Pokemon can just cheat death sometimes?
and you can't turn those off. You can't choose not to do it. Like I hate that.
I'm pretty
I
sure
don't
Scarlet
want.
and Violet got rid of that amongst a lot of other things, but still.
I mean, it's still okay to criticize the fact that several Pokemon games had it.
Yeah. Like,
It's
that's
just
going
like,
to
bro, I
infect
don't.
Sword and Shield forever.
Yeah, that is so annoying. It's like, not only do I not want the animation, I don't want Pokemon. I feel like we could just spend forever kind of ragging on Pokemon, but I think I want to kind of. And you're free to continue, but I kind of want to put a bow on a lot of this by just saying the problems, individual problems with the difficulty are going to keep creeping up, and the difficulty's been balanced way out of whack.
Too many
It's
things are
too
just
easy,
in the player's favor.
and the worst part is that they've taken away choice from the player.
Yeah.
These are now things that you cannot turn off. You cannot turn off the XP share. The gimmicks are not are non-negotiable. You have to deal with them either because you're going to use them or because the opponents are going to use them. Especially in Sword and Shield, like you can't not have to not fight Gigantamax Pokemon. You know, there
Yeah.
was like you could mostly ignore Mega Evolutions in X and Y. There were a couple story battles that used them. I know, the champion and Lysander, but you could for the most part ignore them and just consider those harder Pokemon. Like totem Pokemon, you couldn't do the totem Pokemon. You had the Z moves, and you could optionally ignore them. I think most trainers, if not maybe only a few bosses, use Z moves. Um, but you could basically just ignore them if you didn't want to really deal with them.
Yeah.
They weren't that omnipresent, but literally every gym battle has Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing. And while I personally think it's a cool way to add difficulty to gym battles, it's another thing that you're forced to deal with, another thing that you're forced to have incorporated into the battle that changes the whole dynamic. Uh, And while I think it's cool in isolation, I think it just kind of leads further to the problem of them taking away your autonomy of how you want to play.
Yeah,
Like, you can't ignore that anymore. They are putting the gimmick right in front of you. Luckily, the new gimmick with the Terra types seems like, I mean, they're probably going to have gym leaders using them, but Terra types
aren't
seem
that
like,
disruptive?
yeah, they don't actually really seem like there's, like, you can use them, but they really just seem like they're just an item. You know, they're not
Yeah,
like as omnipresent. And the customization that they're going to give you, the options to sort of change and give you, it gives you, the player, the choice of how you want to do it. It's not like, oh, this Pokemon has a Gigantamax, so you want to use it. Oh, you have to use this fucking Pokemon because they have a Mega Evolution. You know, it gives you what I feel like is a really good sort of. It feels like Terra types are really a culmination of all the gimmicks, the type matching and specialized abilities of Z moves, the power increase of like Mega Evolutions, the cool new forms, with the Mega
yeah,
Evolutions and Gigantamaxing and all that. It feels like we've created a gimmick that, while not particularly flashy, is going to make the games more uh,
yeah.
more customizable and feel better balanced, feel better flowed.
Yep.
Pokemon should be the most customizable game, and the fact that they've taken away so many customizable options is just ludicrous. Joe, talk about set.
Yeah, okay, so Scarlet and Violet, one of the most open games in the series, well, the most open game in many ways. There's a few like pig-headed moves that just kind of bewilder me. I mean, I guess that's the whole thing about this game in a nutshell, where it's simultaneously like the best games, but also some of the worst in a lot of ways. So, all right, since 1996, Pokemon had the option where you could have set or switch. So every time you defeated a Pokemon, if you're on switch mode, it would ask you to if you wanted to change your Pokemon. Set mode, which is what multiplayer defaults to, by the way, is once you knock out an opponent's Pokemon, they send in their response Pokemon, and you don't get a free switch. For whatever reason, Scarlet and Violet don't have that.
Yeah, they just decided that after 25 years, they're just gonna not give you a basic feature that's in the multiplayer.
Yeah, like compound that with the fact that like major battles don't really scale with your progress. I really feel like, despite being open, like they have a very specific way they want you to play this game still.
It's like they can't stop tripping over themselves with this stuff. Just come on, you're so close here. You're so close. Why do you have to keep doing shit like this, Game Freak? Or the Pokemon Company, whoever's in charge of these decisions. Oh yeah, also, I should probably mention I haven't played Scarlet and Violet, so I was talking about Terra types as though they're a thing that's going to happen in the future. When I realized Joe should have been the one to talk about Terra types because he's the one who's actually playing this video game right now. My brain has been all discombobulated. I genuinely forgot those games came out. Are Terra types all the things that I said they would be? Or are there some significant problems with them still that
I
feel
mean,
like they take away autonomy of the player in the
I
context of customization and player choice?
honestly, when it comes to customization, they're fine. Like I don't appreciate the fact that they double your stab bonus, but otherwise, it's a pretty good system. Although I will say that for the most part, how they're implemented for the enemies is just kind of dumb.
I know there's the wild Terra Pokemon and the raids, but beyond that, are you talking about like gym trainers or
Yeah,
story battles?
yeah. The gym leaders just like I haven't reached the very end, but I've finished all the main challenges except for the ending. So okay,
That's enough. I think you got
yeah.
enough to say.
For example, first gym leader, well, one of the two first gym leaders uses grass types. So, you just blast them away with your fire type or whatever. They send out Sudowoodo. You think you're going to mix things up. Then he turns it into a grass type turn 1. So really, you're just going to do the same thing he did to sweep the rest of his team.
I mean, I I feel like that's not really an issue. I feel like that's just like I get what you're saying about it seems like a missed opportunity for them setting it up, only for them to just go back and you're just doing the same thing. I think it's more about just giving you, as a player, sort of more variety, kind of different strategies to fight against, while still keeping the core theme of how the gym leader is supposed to be a challenge for that particular type. No, I think it's, I think Terra types in this context are really more just for the old players who want to see something fresh and be surprised about how these Pokemon can get used in different ways
Yeah, compared to
than
the
it is
past
so
few
much.
gimmicks, I think it's way
Yeah,
better as a mechanic.
yeah, there's still room to improve. It sounds like.
Yeah. All right. So, oh, all right. One kind of difficulty style I do like is when some games implement New Game Plus, they'll have like a special difficulty with New Game Plus in mind.
Yeah,
Like I think the one series that really comes to mind the most when it comes to that is the Tales series, where they'll have like I think like an ultimate difficulty, and that's built with like you being almost maxed out to begin with. Like that's like built for New Game Plus.
gives you the option if you want to replay it. But Joe,
Yeah.
have you considered Luigi mode?
Oh yeah. So in like
You can play as Luigi, and he has less traction but a higher jump. Luigi mode.
Luigi mode. The,
It's a difficulty. You can pick it. You can play the game, and you're Luigi, and Luigi's got less traction but higher jump. Luigi
yeah, the most primitive version of the alternate character style of difficulty.
mode. Hey man, Luigi walked with lower traction, so characters like Virgil could run.
Yeah.
Virgil really owes everything to Luigi.
Yeah.
Jill Valentine or Claire, they all owe everything to Luigi.
Everyone owes something to Luigi for having lower traction and a higher jump.
Yeah. The basic bread and butter of it. Here's your guy who plays differently. Here's his challenge. You know, it's like, yeah. I mean, if you're playing New Super Mario Bros, you could just do it without beating the game. You could just put in the button combo, and that's my preferred way to play because it makes it slightly harder. And also, I get go Ouija. Oh yeah, it's Ouija time, which that makes the challenge all the more worth it. I wish every hard mode could end with oh yeah, Ouija time.
The Virgin, you could just deposit your Pokemon so you only have a few, versus the Chad Ouija time. Oh, don't like the new experience share system? Just use less
Ouija time.
Pokemon, or haha, Ouija time.
Big brain, just use Luigi. Have you considered just using Luigi instead? You could probably have a better challenge mode in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet if you just use Luigi instead.
I'm imagining an RPG with Luigi mode that just has worse field controls.
The fact that none of the traditional Paper Marios have just done that yet is really weird. Like, especially I think one of the ones that are like less story focused, or the ones that
Yeah,
don't have Luigi in it, would just let you do that.
yeah.
Like, I'm not saying make a whole new campaign like Paper Mario Thousand Year Door could have been, but like, oh. Have like Sticker Star. You know, like we're not gonna talk about our opinions on those games. We're gonna talk about like or Origami King. Origami King. Like just have him be Luigi mode. Why is Luigi driving him to the castle? There's a second Luigi. Come on, we did this in Mario Galaxy. We already know about the two Luigis.
I can't believe the two Luigis in Galaxy is pretty much exactly like the bigger Luke theory in Star Wars.
Figure.
Uh, yeah.
Hey! Talking about player choice.
Fire Emblem.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, you know what? That works. We'll get to where I was gonna go.
Ever
Let's talk
since
about Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem 12, New Mystery of the Emblem, they've ever since they've added a difficulty setting where you could have classic mode with permadeath and casual mode which didn't. And, that was neat, a little controversial. It was neat until Three Houses added the Divine Pulse time mechanic. And I guess, Echoes had the turn wheel. But permadeath wasn't relevant in Echoes anyway because there was a way to revive characters. Where it became less difficulty modes became less about trying to deal with a challenge for that long game, but rather trying to make the player burn their resets in a chapter. Which Three Houses has a game that gives you so many choices that in order to become difficult, maddening mode had to do some really stupid things to make the game very challenging. Where it's like there, it's a pretty clear example of there being a constant struggle between how much quality of life and player choice you want to give the players versus how to give them a challenging experience with that in mind. Imbalanced mechanics can just create an imbalanced experience.
Balance can cause a lot of strife, especially when there's imbalance in the force itself. Which is why we're going to be talking about morality choices.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Because you're
yeah.
talking about
We're talking
Star
play.
Wars. I was gonna
Yeah,
I was
player
gonna talk
choice.
about morality choices. I was gonna talk about games that do give you choice and games that don't give you choice. And I was thinking about
Yeah,
Star Wars. I was thinking about the Shadow the Hedgehog knockoff Star Killer because Shadow the Star Killer is just a ripoff of Shadow the Hedgehog from 2005 Shadow the Hedgehog, and you can't tell me I'm wrong because he literally is.
yeah.
He
When it comes
literally
to
is.
player choice, you could just change your morality. Like if you want to play an evil character in a plot-driven game or a good character.
And it only affect the last minute because the rest of the game's already been pre-scripted and pre-animated, and they're not doing it twice. They're not gonna do it second time.
Who would have
You
thought
know.
that? Who would have thought that committing murder would change the color of an explosion?
Or you could be like the actual Star Wars games that have morality, like KOTOR. Where your path actually determines the entirety of the story. Are you gonna rule the kingdom? Are you gonna be the villain? Are you gonna try to be the hero? What are you gonna do? You know.
I didn't mean to be so reductive about Mass Effect because it really is just the ending of 3 that's that bad, from what I've heard.
Oh yeah, I mean I know like Mass Effect. I figured I thought you were talking about like just normally when you're playing like in Infamous where when you're evil your color is red and when you're good your color is blue.
Um, I'm pretty sure there's some differences if I remember Infamous correctly.
Oh, I mean Infamous is a game with an actually like layered and deep morality system. I'm just pissing on it because good guy used blue and bad guy used red.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially if you only know them from PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
You had
The two
20
colors.
character slots, and you used 2 of them in the same guy.
Alright, we're gonna save PlayStation All Stars. We're gonna cap that one because we could go. We could talk
Yeah.
about PlayStation. But no, like morality systems are another way that the games can even add difficulty. They tend to make the harder challenges tend to be the villain challenges.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll actually make the easy challenges the hard ones, or the bad guys, because it's like, oh, being a bad guy is like just natural. It's hard to be a good person. It's hard to maintain. You ever play
Yeah.
GTA and not get a star? you know, GTA is a franchise we need more experience with, so we could actually talk about how
Yeah.
much freedom they actually give you, how much customization. You can go wherever. GTA is the roadmap for player choice, and all that. You could go wherever you want. You could be obese as hell and just eat burgers all day and not work out. You know, I've only watched gameplay of GTA San Andreas, but I honestly feel like that kind of just doesn't seem fun. I don't know if I'd have fun maintaining my character's weight and eating the right food. It feels like a job.
Time to
Feels like a job.
time to play
I've
Grand
heard.
Theft Auto to eat cheeseburgers and follow traffic laws.
Oh, I gotta go to the gym. I gotta work out. I gotta eat the right food. I gotta go earn money. It's like, bro, I just came from my 9 to 5 and I'm coming home to do the same thing, but my digital avatar. You know,
No
player
wonder why people
customization
just
and stuff
blow
like
up cars.
that. Like, I definitely, can admire a lot of the customization options they give you, but sometimes it's like, it can be a bit much. It could be a bit excessive. You can That's why like sim games like The Sims and Animal Crossing and stuff like that
Yeah.
tend to lose me. I those games are all about player choice. They're games that don't have endings. They're
Yeah.
games that just keep going and just let you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But to do that, they have to not have a narrative through line, or at least such a bare bones narrative through line. You can't conceivably end the game at any point. You end it when you run out of things you want to do.
Yeah.
There's a
Such
lot of
as
genres that yeah, a
yeah.
lot of genres are more pre-built for this kind of style, as you were saying.
Yeah. Like difficulty and an ending, like those are things that some genres just follow different rules with. Yeah, a simulation game is going to have a different approach to it than like a linear affair. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, um,
There's a lot of games that, and like, we could get into games that have like alternative methods, speed running, and all that stuff. I'm not really going to get too much into it, but I do want to bring up, games that give you choice in a very passive way that almost feels as a. Basically, I want to talk about Metroid and how Metroid encourages speed running in its level design.
yeah,
It encourages you and does not punish you for going out of your way. It lets you, for the most part, it lets you
yeah,
go and do whatever you want. Super Metroid's the blueprint. Uh, you can literally play that game in any order. Um, every time I try to pick it up, I usually want to go in a different way, finding different items, finding stuff out of order. You know, Games like that. You can beat the game however you want. There is a clear path you should take, but you also can just go your own way, and the game encourages it. Some of the later ones even give little Easter eggs if you find secret rooms. I think Zero Mission or Fusion had like an entire room where that was like hidden behind like shine sparks or something, and like they even like acknowledge like, oh, you're not supposed to be here, or this is like a difficult room to find, something like that, acknowledging
yeah,
like you put in the effort to sort of go and do that because the game didn't stop you.
yeah.
You know,
Reward the player for being really good by thinking out of the box and yeah,
yeah, not even like rewarding the player, but just so much as like you're not gonna
allowing
stop
them
them.
to.
Yeah,
Don't.
you're allowing them to play the game. You've built a game so competently. Okay, competently is almost a
Insult.
disservice to it. Yeah, you put a game together so, well. You've made such a well-crafted sort of world that you can break the game and you feel like you're being rewarded. Games that like give you so much sort of a degree of freedom with the way that you move. weirdly, I've been feeling like that a lot about Sonic Frontiers. Very much in that sort of Metroid-esque, like I can, or like an open world style where you can kind of just do whatever. You can break puzzles, you can break challenges. Admittedly, Frontiers is a little janky, so a lot of that break is actual break. Unlike, I don't feel as clever cheesing a challenge in Frontiers as I would cheesing something in Super Metroid, which feels like I really gotta work for it. But it still
Yeah.
achieves the same goal of like I can, use a boost, or I can use a, piece of geometry, do a crazy trick, and I can stop a challenge and not have to do a challenge. But the game doesn't stop me from doing it. Frontiers is honestly really open with the amount of stuff that it lets me do as a player.
Indeed.
And the way you can set your own levels. It gives me just enough customization and like setting how I want to level up my upgrades, just enough free movement to where to go, without feeling it's still a game with a fairly linear A to B, but it kind of lets me choose how I'm going to go about doing it, which I think a lot of games is really all you need. I think
Yeah.
games like Sonic Frontiers, Mario Odyssey, which was very much inspired Sonic Frontiers, you know,
Yeah.
taking traditional formats that have been very railroaded and giving you the freedom of choice to really
Yeah.
do whatever you want. Um, and I think that just provides a lot to the player. I feel like, yeah, Mario Odyssey was like a really great game with that. Ditching the leave the level system, ditching, basically reinventing themselves from the ground up, uh, to create a game that was more challenging but also more accessible at the same time.
Yeah.
Damn, I gotta replay Mario Odyssey. It's been like 5 years, man. I beat that game, had a great time. Haven't played it in like 5 years. I gotta pick that up.
Yeah.
That game was amazing.
Huh. Maybe we'll do something Mario related, so you have an excuse to do so.
Damn, you're right. If only there was like new Mario stuff happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Oh
know.
well, Mushroom Kingdom, here we come.
All right. I think this is starting to feel like an ending.
But is it, Joe? Did you play on the right difficulty?
Oh no! I didn't play the right difficulty. Damn it! Now I have to play Superman 64 on the hardest difficulty so I could reach the ending.
Then there's no time to waste.
Yeah, you can do that. You know, play Superman 64 on the hardest difficulty with the screen on 20%.
Yeah. Imagine if you just zoomed in on that. That shit would look like an Atari game. No, you
Yeah,
know what? It would look like what people do when they make videos of Spider-Man Miles Morales running on a Game Boy Color, and you just put a filter over everything to make it look 8-bit. That's what playing Superman 64 at 20% blown up on your TV would actually look like.
yeah. Alright, like, screw all the difficulty settings and modes we've talked about. Superman 64 lets you change how much of the screen the game takes up.
Hey, you know what? To be fair, that game is giving you performance options
Yeah.
on the N64.
Oh, you're right.
As silly as it is, think of how many games could benefit from the option of letting you adjust. I actually was thinking about this earlier, and I forgot to mention it until now. Is that games now that give you performance versus graphics options, you can
Yeah.
pick better frame rate. You can pick, most of the time it's 4K 30 or 1080 60. Uh,
Yeah.
and Superman 64 was
A
maybe not the
pioneer.
first, but it genuinely, like, it did give you the option to have better performance at the expense of the visuals. A
Yeah.
lot of N64 games actually did that. Back then when it was actually relevant. Now it's kind of more just a preference thing. But back then it actually made a difference.
Yeah. Nah. Outside of PC games, which because PCs are more decentralized, you can't guarantee how strong something is. A lot of games, even nowadays, could benefit from having modes that performance modes.
Hell, our favorite N64 game, the one that gave you too many choices and too many things to do. DK64 had widescreen support.
In 1999 on the N64.
So you could have more Donkey Kong. You could have even more.
How does one game do so much wrong and right at the same time? How
You
does a
could just
game
drink
manage to be a 10 out of 10 and a 1 out of 10 at the same time?
drink some Dr. Pepper, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You'll have a brain blast.
Uh-uh.
That game gives you the illusion of choice. You do not have a
Well,
choice.
there's 5 characters you can play as? No, you have 5 characters to play as. Oh, Sonic
Whoa.
Adventure has 6 playable characters? No, it has 6 characters to play as.
Yeah, but at least that game's over shorter. At least Sonic Adventure can be done in the amount of time it takes you to unlock all 5 Kongs in Donkey
Yeah,
Kong 64.
yeah. Wow, Sonic Heroes is 4 campaigns. Yes, you have 4 to get through.
Hey, Shadow the Hedgehog has 670 endings or something like that.
At least you
That's a
only have
lot of
to.
choice.
At least you only have to play through that. Like what? Like 20 times? 10
10.
times? All right, 10 times.
Only 10 times out of 670. That's a pretty good odds, you know?
Yeah.
That means you're only completing about 2% of the whole game. Oh, it's so much content. I love Westopolis. It's my favorite place.
Yeah.
Sonic 06 let you, and Sonic Unleashed let you buy hard versions of levels as DLC. I had nothing else to add about those games, but I figure we've talked about so many of the other Sonic games, I might as well bring them up.
Pikmin 2, I was just going to point this out, has like a psychotic difficulty where the enemies are so overpowered, but you're also overpowered. So it's like balanced in the dumbest way imaginable. Oh hey, these enemies with cannons can regenerate and revive themselves, but you have purple Pikmin that can stun them and can turn them into stone. Oh, but there's bombs that fall from the ceiling.
There's crack mode.
Pikmin 2's difficulty philosophy is yeah, it's a you're on drugs mode that Sonic that
Oh, so
Team
Louis mode.
Chaotix. Yeah, Louis mode.
Louis mode. Hey, you know a game could have used a difficulty slider?
What?
F-Zero GX.
Yeah, what are those difficulty modes?
F-Zero GX gonna really use the difficulty slider. Bro, this is my favorite game that only has 2 levels in it. I think I invited you over and we were playing that for like over an hour and I think we only got to like the 3rd or 4th level.
Yeah,
I know we beat the rock level, but barely.
but barely.
And that was,
We were like done.
we were done with our time and we didn't even bother trying to finish the 3rd one, I think. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, I think at that point, much like F-Zero GX, I think we're done here. I think there's a lot we can say. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot still to say. But I also feel like at this point we've kind of just spinning our wheels here. I think a good way to sort of wrap it up is do you think difficulty game modes have improved over the years? Do you think we have a better idea and do you think that they are going to continue to improve? And most importantly, do you think it's good to have these options in games?
Are there any games that you can think of that need more difficulty options or less? Let us know.
Oh, you know what? Fucking if you Scrabble, Scrabble games have the ultimate difficulty because you can just play an older version and have less words. Every time you buy a new Scrabble, you're making it easier.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
My Scrabble on PS1 is harder than Scrabble on PS4 because there's less words. You can't use yeet. You can't use lean. Oh, yeah, you can. Lean's
Yeah,
a real thing. You
lean's a
can't
real
use.
word.
I don't think gritty was a word in 1997. But I mean gritty with two D's, not two T's. You
Uh,
can't use any internet terms. There's no noob. There's no weeb. Try playing PS1 Scrabble and not being able to use a single internet meme word.
oh yeah, I guess before
You
we
can't.
go,
YOLO doesn't exist.
I have to talk about the best kind of difficulty. Hardcore mode, like in Diablo. If you die once, it's over.
Oh god, those fucking games. The I hate myself modes where I'm gonna play a game that's like 4 or 5 hours, and if I die, it's over. I
Yeah.
think, I think there was a mode like that in Uncharted, but I don't think I had to play it for the platinum, so I just avoided it. Maybe, maybe I did. No, I don't think I would have
That remind.
suffered through playing. Okay, I say suffered, but Uncharted one was actually fun. But like playing the entire game and you can't die, or else you have to start over. I would not put
That
myself through
reminds me of
that,
how psychotic like the trophy list was for like Mega Man 9 and 10. Don't get hit for a silver trophy.
bruh. There are legends who've platinumed Mega Man 9 and 10. Those men are gods.
Don't die or get hit. Gold trophy.
The legend.
The Mega Man legends. There are only two of them.
It's funny, we started and ended with Mega Man. I think that's really our best plot here.
Yeah. Alright.
Well,
Until next time, we'll have an easy or hard time seeing you back around the table.
make sure to adjust your settings before joining again.
Yeah, like the subscribe setting. Yeah.
You can choose to make it easier or harder to find our content. You can also choose to make it easier or harder for us to gain new viewers and be able to produce more content like this by liking it, sharing it with your friends, and posting it on your favorite social media platform of choice, provided it's still there by the time we actually get this episode uploaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. See you guys back at the table. Have a good one.
Yep. Good night. Or morning. Whatever time you're watching this.